I'm excited by the whole program. Let me tell you a little bit about what I plan for my time in front of you. I'm going to tell you what behavioral science is and why I believe it's so valuable to your work. We'll talk some details, some of the different levers you might pull when designing incentive programs and working towards better motivation and engagement. I'm going to give you a few takeaways, and then if you're good, I'll end on a really bad dad joke. Is it good? There's a couple. I've seen my fellow middle-aged people there. I know what you want. So behavioral science is a study of how emotion and psychology impact decision-making and behavior. How emotion and psychology impact decision-making and behavior. Basically, why do we do the things that we do, and what can we do about it? To demonstrate that, I want to ask you all to get the blood flowing a little. Do me a favor, everybody. Raise one hand as high as you can. Okay. Now raise it just a little bit higher. How could you do that? How could you raise it higher? I said as high as you can. And yet you found some motivation to give a little bit more effort. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Right? This tiny little bit more effort, tiny little bit more engagement. This is the difference between doing what you're told to do and doing what you want to do. Right? Between showing up for a job and leaning into a career. Right? Between listening to your manager and everyone in HR and doing what you're supposed to do and giving that little bit extra, going a little bit farther, being really lured in by an incentive. Right? We're going to talk about what are the psychological things that get that tiny little bit more, that little behavioral alpha. Okay. One more set of questions for you. Do me a favor, raise your hand if sometime in the last 2 weeks you went to bed promising yourself first thing in the morning you'd exercise. Okay? Now keep your hand up if raising your hand is all the exercise you've gotten for the last 2 weeks. So I asked that question because it demonstrates the fundamental challenge of behavioral science, of decision-making in general, whether it's about workplace, finances, health, family, anything. We all know the right thing to do. We all know if we exercise, we're going to lose weight, we're going to feel better, we're going to look better, we're going to live longer. Everything's going to be better. That's what the data tells us that, our experience tells us that, our peers, colleagues, advisors, everything tells us the right thing to do, and yet the alarm goes off and we do something different. We know what we should do. There's no doubt about it, yet we do something different. So too do employees that we work with. They know the project is due on Friday and a bunch of other people have to get their hands on it. They shouldn't wait till Thursday night to finish their part, but they do anyway. They know that they should be engaged with their managers. Managers know that they should provide constructive feedback. We know the right thing to do, but yet we don't. We kick it down the line. And the question is why? And is there anything we can do? In the case of exercise, the night before, when you're in that good mood, you might put your gym shorts and your sneakers next to the bed. Doesn't guarantee you're going to work out, but it's a reminder of the promise you made to yourself. It makes it a little bit easier to do the right thing. It's just a nudge. That's all we're talking about. You may have heard that term of art, nudge. That's what behavioral science is. It's not therapy. It's not magic. I can't, say, hey, what's the magic word to make people do this thing? No. It just tips the scales a little bit. It opens our minds and our employees and our team's minds and those we serve, opens their minds to the right thing a little bit to hopefully make that right decision and then ultimately have better relationships, deeper relationships as you understand their motivation. Now, in my short time here, we're going to throw out a bunch of terms. I know how learning works. It's a big, full program. You're not going to remember everything, but I hope you will remember these 2 guiding principles of applying behavioral science to really any industry, but particularly yours. Number 1, making good decisions is hard. Making good decisions is hard. It's hard for everyone. And I want us to normalize that for those that we serve. To normalize that it's okay to really not know what to do. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to sometimes do the wrong thing as long as you're working towards the right thing. To normalize that, because so many times in different situations, different industries, there's maybe a sense of shame or an unwillingness to ask or an unwillingness to engage because you feel like you should know what to do. Right? Like right now, I work with JP Morgan, and I serve some very wealthy people whose identity is about money, and they don't know what to do with their money, and they're so hesitant to say anything, right? Because that's who they are. And so too with the people that you serve. Like you work in a machine building company, you work making widgets, whatever, that's your identity. So it might be hard to say, I don't know. So normalizing that it's hard to make good decisions. And then for us, understanding, like, why is it really so hard? And I believe that it's hard because a decision is about doing something right now for the benefit of the future. For the benefit of your team, your work, your family, your health, whatever it may be. It's doing something right now for the benefit of the future, and that future is inherently unknowable and uncertain. We can control certain things, but a lot we can't control, and that makes us uncomfortable. And when we make a decision now, what we see in research and in your experiences, when you make a decision focusing on the big picture, what are your goals? What's your identity? How does this serve you as a person? People do make better choices, right? But nobody wants to think about that stuff. Nobody shows up to work with a project on their desk and say, how does this affect my legacy, right? They just want to get it done and pass it on to Cheryl and John and counting, wherever it is. So we have all this stuff, uncertain future, big picture ideas that make us uncomfortable, and ultimately we don't go through that process. When we're making a decision, we make the choice that feels good. We want to walk away from a choice, from interacting with you and your offerings, and just say, I feel good about that. That's all the people we serve want to say, I feel good about that. And that's our challenge, our opportunity, is to make sure what you've created, the system, the framework, offers the right thing to also be the thing that feels good. The problem is this second principle, that we cannot change human nature. We cannot change human nature. We can't change who people are, the underlying motivations and emotions that lead them astray. But what we can do, what we should do, is understand human nature. Understand why people do the things that they do. Then we can create systems, frameworks, offerings, so that we use human nature for their benefit instead of having it be used against us. So instead of a conflict, it's a collaboration. Instead of sitting there and telling someone, don't you see the right thing to do? Don't you see the right thing to do? We can see things from their perspective and work together, right? Like in the exercise, last example of the exercise, I promise, I know every day I wake up, the alarm goes off, I may have promised myself a workout, but I'm like, oh, the Peloton is covered in laundry, like I don't even know my shoe, forget it. Right? What does not work is treating me like a Marine. Like, have more self-control, be more disciplined, be a better person, come on. It doesn't work. Like, I'm middle-aged, I got a dad bod, it's not gonna make a difference. Right? Instead, you say, okay, here's your flaw, let's work with your flaw. Let's clear off the Peloton the night before, let's give you a fighting chance. And that's all we can hope to do, is give our employees, our teammates, those we work with, a fighting chance to do the right thing. And that is what I think is so beautiful about the work that you do with incentives and motivations and engagement. Speaking of which, let's dig a little deeper into the science of motivation and engagement. Here's my dorky offering for you. Within the behavioral science, there's a framework for behavior change called BMAP, B equals MAP. Very simply, and by the way, all this stuff, you all have different contexts. These are ideas you can apply on your own. That's the hard work. B equals MAP. You want to have a behavior. You want to make people change. You want to create new habits. B, behavior, is a combination of motivation, ability, and a prompt. Motivation, ability, and a prompt. Very quickly, working backwards. A prompt, right? You got a project that's due on the 15th. Don't send me a bunch of messages to get it done on the 17th. Make it timely. Right? Don't tell me what to do with my tax return in June. Tell me in April. Ability. Make it simple. Make it easy for people to do the right thing. Make all the technical side, as much as you can eliminate the friction, just make it easy. And 3, motivation. You can make the world's most amazing red button, but if nobody wants to push it, it doesn't matter. Why? Think about why. Why should the people you serve want to use their unused benefits? Why should they want to put in a little extra effort? Why should they want to engage with their team more? Motivation. From my perspective, that's the key. All these other systems, fairly interchangeable, but connecting to that motivation is the key. And there's an important difference in motivation between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic, extrinsic. You might consider it internal, external. Extrinsic motivation, external, is like money, basically, right? You work at a car dealership, sell 20 cars this month, you get a $10,000 bonus. Right? If you don't sell 5 cars, you're fired. Right? Pretty straightforward, transactional. That's what we tend to think about as being motivation and incentives, is in monetary. But you all know it's more than that. That works, right? That gets us to here. But that doesn't get here. What does get here is the intrinsic stuff, connecting to people, connecting to what they want and need. I'm not saying this isn't important. You gotta have a structure, you gotta pay people, but there's more. One of my favorite accidental research studies, there was a daycare where a bunch of parents were coming late. And because parents were coming late, this meant that the daycare providers were late to go pick up their kids. It caused a lot of friction, caused animosity. Like in chat groups, people were calling each other horrible names. There were parents who wouldn't let their kids play with the kids of the parents that were coming late because they just didn't like each other. They wouldn't look at each other, things were breaking down. And so the people running the daycare said, we gotta change this. Let's put in a fine system, right? You're a minute late, that's $1. 20 minutes late, $20. They put that in place. And you know what happened? More people came late, and more people came later and later. It backfired. They created a transactional system, just about extrinsic motivation. What matters more to you? My kid is ostracized or $20? Can you even put a price on that? The pressure of the social aspect, while it didn't make everything perfect, actually kept it more constrained, affected behavior more than a monetary one. And while that's sort of framed negative, think about the positive frame of that. What are the things that we can lean into to get people to feel more fulfilled, to build that community? This is something, again, I'm sure you all are familiar with when you think about extrinsic versus intrinsic. A hierarchy of the value, the internal motivating value of rewards. Money is less powerful than things, is less powerful than experiences, right? Money is impersonal. Anybody can give me a check for $10,000. Seriously, anybody can give me a check for 10. Cash is fine too. It's all interchangeable. Money is just, anybody can do it, right? A thing, at least that's tangible. Oh, I got a mug from my company. You know, world's best data processor, great. It's a little more valuable. But experiences, that's where the real gold mine is. Right? A $10,000 bonus has less motivating engagement power than like a $7,000 trip to Hawaii. Right? Trip to Hawaii, I get that from my company. I spend months thinking about it, planning it. Right? I get value there. I'm there in the experience for a week with my family. I get value there. Afterwards, for a lifetime, I've got pictures, I've got memories, and it's all connected to the company that's provided this thing. Like, it is timeless. Money is time-bound. It's a transaction, thanks, I put it in my bank account and floods all together. Now, not everyone does trips to Hawaii, I understand. But what are some other ways to sort of think about that? Think about the stuff that connects to us personally. Here's my other, besides BMAT, my other dorky thing is called self-determination theory. Self-determination theory, you don't have to write that down. By the way, any questions you have, feel free to reach out later. It just basically says that we derive satisfaction, happiness, meaning, purpose from a combination of 3 areas: community, control, and competence. Community, control, and competence. Now, as you're designing your workplace, as you're designing your incentive programs, like, where are you pulling on these levers a little bit for your teams? Community, the need to be with others, influenced by others, be part of a team, right? Like, have others rely on you. Yeah, I could finish my project at Thursday night at midnight that's due Friday, but then I'm really screwing over my teammates. I'm part of something. Use that thing that you're relied on by others. Use that as a carrot and a stick. Right? Rewarding people, public acknowledgement of what they're doing, using social norms and social proof, right? Have informal networks of influence. What I mean by that is you want to change behavior, you want to have people start using your benefits programs. I know a lot of times there's like, people are leaving money in their programs. Start having the informal leaders of that organization using it, setting that example, that social norm, that this is what we do. We're influenced by what our peers do and what those we respect and want to be like too. Control. Control is one of the most key things we want as people, and it's not control like I want to tell others what to do, although we've all worked for people like that. Control is ultimately, I want autonomy. I want to be able to create my own existence, my own future. I'm at work all the time. I want this to be me, right? So find a way to allow that in whether it's a program you're creating that's incentives and rewards or just a workplace process. Right? To the extent that your work is designed to create an outcome, let people create their own process. Let them get there how they want, as long as that doesn't affect other things. Anybody here shop at IKEA? Quick, wait, yeah. You guys know IKEA, good. I love going to IKEA because if you go to IKEA and you pay attention, you can watch these couples that walk in, right? And over the course of like 90 minutes, 2 hours, they build the foundation for a really strong, lasting, and meaningful divorce. And it's heartwarming to see that I'm not the only one. What IKEA has figured out, there's actually something, a scientific principle called the IKEA effect, is you go to IKEA, you pay $40 for a bookshelf, you haul it off a platform, you carry home a big thing, you hurt your back, you open it up, there's like hieroglyphics and Swedish meatballs, and there's missing pieces and extra pieces, and you put it together and you swear at people, and it doesn't even hold books, it falls apart. You value that more than if you just went to Staples and bought a pre-made $40 bookshelf. Because you've endowed it with your effort. You've been part of building that thing. You've been part of creating something. You value it more. And this is true not just with bookshelves and meatballs, but it's true with our workplace. It's true with our financial plans. It's true with our healthcare plan. It's true with our families and our community. If you're part of building something, you're more connected to it. So finding ways that you can offer that to the people that you serve. How can they personalize it? How can they make it their own? How can they have some control and autonomy over creating something? And competence. Competence is just very straightforward. With this thing, we want to use our brains. Right? Learning doesn't stop at college or graduate school. It should be a lifelong thing, but it's often not really thought of and given the focus that it deserves to be. People need to feel like they're growing, like they're masters on something, that they have knowledge to share, that they're learning from others, that they're part of something. Finding ways for them to do that, to continue to learn. Not constant every day, but like at a steady pace. And recognizing, particularly those of you that work in industries that have big projects, right? Like a 6-month project. One of the challenges with those is like the outcome is very far away. Recognizing that we want to give that a chance for competence and growth in little progress steps, right? Like when you're training for a marathon, those of you that have run a marathon, you're psychotic, I don't know what you're doing, but congratulations. When you run a marathon, you set out and you run 1 mile. I've run 3 miles, I've run 5 miles, I've run 13 miles. I have 12 miles to go, I have 10 miles to go, 5 miles to go, 1 mile to go. You break it into small little attainable steps and projects. Find a way to do that within the workflow so people have this feeling that they're making progress, so that they are recognized. A lot of these are little levers of substituting to get to these last 2 items: recognition, feedback, and then the next one, purpose and identity. Recognition. People are giving you their time, they're giving you their emotion, their knowledge, they're giving you themselves. Recognize that. One of my favorite studies, they took a room full of people and they had people fill out a form, pretty straightforward. They brought the form up to the front of the room and they gave it to an observer. The observer did one of 3 things, and then they measured whether or not the participant would do that again, fill out the form again. Here are the 3 things I want you to think about, what you think are the most and least motivating impact. First, the observer took the paper, looked it up and down, looked the person in the eye and said, thanks, put it in a pile. Second, the observer took the paper, did not look at it, did not look in the person, just put it down. Third, the observer took the paper, did not look at the person, did not look them in the eye, turned and put the paper in a shredder. Right in front of them. What had the least and most motivating impact? Shredder. Least motivating, very clear. Saying thank you, most motivating. Where do you think ignoring someone fell? Same as the shredder. Ignoring someone's effort is the same as, it's too early for swear words, but for disregarding, disrespecting them, shredding their effort, saying, I don't care about you, you don't matter, you're wasting my time. Now, I like to try to flip it positive and say, on the other hand, saying thank you has a tremendous impact. And it's free. Now, don't pay people in thank yous, that's not enough. But the recognition programs, the incentive things you're creating are so powerful because it just says, I see you. I know you're literally giving your life to this company, to this industry. Thank you. Like, it was snowing today, right? And the roads just got cleared, but we had this big project. Thank you for coming in. I know your son is going through some stuff at school, and we really appreciate you making the time to still be here. Thank you for the little things. It's so powerful, and it's too often forgotten. And it's embedded in what you do. And that's why I love speaking to this type of organizations. But don't forget about it. Don't forget to lean in and offer that feedback to people that what they do is valued. Which ties us into the big thing, the big idea. Purpose. Why? Going back to intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Why do people show up to a job? Why do you do the work that you do? Right? Mission statements, right? At JP Morgan, we have a mission statement. I think it's making dreams possible. It's a little cheesy, but it's also true. Like, we help communities fund things. We help people get a home. We help, I don't know, billionaires destroy the environment. Kidding. No, we're a very good place. I feel the electric zap right now. It's not something you salute every day, right? You don't walk in, salute the flag, but it's got to be there. What is the mission for the organization, the team, the individual? And everyone has a different mission, a different purpose, but allowing them to have that and leaning into that, recognizing that. Two last quick anecdotes or study. There's a professor by the name of Adam Grant. Great professor, great author, Wharton guy. He took a room full of people working at a call center, right? They were raising money for a scholarship. They had to follow a script, right? They had no autonomy. They had no creativity. They had none of this stuff. And half the people in the room got a letter from someone who'd received a scholarship from that effort describing how it changed their life. The other half didn't. The half that got the letter, doing the same boring work as the other half, the half that understood why they were there was a purpose to their time and effort, outperformed the others almost 2-to-1. Just knowing why they were there. There's a legend that when they were creating the space program, President Kennedy went down to NASA, and he met a bunch of people, talked to them, and then he, at one point, met a janitor. And he asked the janitor, he said, "Oh, what do you do here?" And the janitor said, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." The janitor cleans toilets and picks up trash from nerds, right? But in that moment, speaking to the president, he was part of something bigger. He's helping put a man on the moon. Holy cow, that's amazing. Right? Now, he doesn't think that every day, but once in a while, when he's thinking about, should I stay a little bit late to finish this? You know, my car is having trouble. Should I go in? Should I go to work? Like, I'm helping put a man on the moon. It's so powerful. And finding a way that you can harness that for those that you lead and those that you serve. Like, what is that thing that they really want? It's not money, right? Money is a number. Money provides something else: security, opportunity, influence, legacy, philanthropy, revenge. Like, I don't know, I'm not gonna judge. Right? It's something else. And what is it that they really need? As I said, I offered a lot of different sciencey ideas, and I have to learn not to turn and walk this way because I am getting middle-aged. No one else going bald? Perfect. But I do want to offer you quickly in my last couple of minutes here, 2 quick techniques. Number 1, when you're working with, this is for yourself and those that you serve, it's a technique called advise yourself. This is my attempt, these 2 things, to harness a lot of what we talk about. Advise yourself. You're working with someone who comes in and has a problem, and they're stuck. They don't know what to do, or maybe they know what to do, but they're not doing it. Say to them, okay, imagine Tracy. It's not you with the problem, but it's your best friend, Mary. How would you advise Mary? What would you say to Mary? Because chances are Tracy kind of knows the right thing to do, but she's caught up in her own world, and that's fine, that's normal again. Right? But when we give advice to other people, we give better advice to other people than we give to ourselves. More importantly, we are kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. When I'm making a decision now for the future, I get hung up on everything I did wrong and all the mess. And when Tracy talks to Mary, she just knows Mary, what she knows about her, what the choices are, what the opportunity. She gives her advice. Doesn't guarantee she's going to do that thing, but sometimes just saying it helps us, like, take a moment and assess where we are. Right? And it's a technique I've seen work in many ways. The other thing, very quickly, for offering for all of you is called Take 10. As you're interacting with people that you serve or designing something, take 10 seconds, just 10 seconds, and ask yourself, who is this person? Who are these employees? Who are these clients? And answer without any reference to money. They're a grandparent, they're a cancer survivor, they're a philanthropist, they're a working mom. Like, what is it that they want? What's gonna make them walk away and say, I feel good? And take that knowledge into what you're designing, what you're talking about, and focus on them. And that's going to get that tiny little bit extra effort. And my last thought on tiny little bit extra effort is A, feel free to reach out with further questions or ideas. But people ask me, what's my little thing? What do I use to motivate myself to make better decisions? Whether it's work related or it's at the refrigerator at 3 in the morning, there's some cold pizza there. Like, how do I decide what to, and it's very simple. It's my kids. Right? Maybe it's simple, but I have these 2 adorable little alarm clocks. Get me out of bed no matter how sad I am. And I think about them so much and what influences them, because so my wife is Catholic and I'm Jewish. And as you may know, if the mother is Catholic and the father is Jewish, that means that the children are cashews. And I know that's a little nutty, but I thought we'd get the day started. You guys, my name is Jeff Kreisler. It's been my honor to speak for you. Please enjoy the rest of the program.